Park Do-yun stared at the golden envelope in his hands. The metal was warm to the touch, and strange symbols glowed softly on its surface. He had seen many alien languages in his 5 years as a translator, but this was different. This was a royal invitation from the Valorian Empire. He opened it carefully. The message inside was written in High Valorian, a language so old that most Valorians themselves could not read it. But Do-hyun could. He had spent 3 years learning every dialect of their tongue, from common street talk to ancient royal speech. It was why they had chosen him. The invitation asked him to attend the wedding of Princess Yura, eldest daughter of King Taejun. He would serve as the official translator for Earth's diplomatic team. The ceremony would take place in 10 days on Valoria Prime, the heart of an empire that ruled over 60 star systems. Do-yun set down the invitation and looked out the window of his small room on the diplomatic station. The planet Valoria Prime hung in the darkness of space like a blue and silver jewel. Even from orbit, he could see the massive cities that covered its surface, their lights forming patterns that told stories of ancient wars and great heroes. He was nervous. The Valorians were not like humans. They stood over 2 meters tall, with silver skin and 4 powerful arms. Their bodies were covered in markings that glowed with different colors based on their emotions. They were warriors by nature, proud and dangerous. They had conquered dozens of species before humans even left Earth, but they had not conquered humanity. When human ships first met Valorian warships 200 years ago, everyone expected a quick defeat. Instead, humans fought back with a ferocity that shocked the galaxy. The war lasted 50 years and ended in a draw. Since then, humans and Valorians had maintained an uneasy peace. This wedding was supposed to change that. It was the first time humans had been invited to a royal Valorian ceremony. Ambassador Kang Ji-hye, the head of human-Valorian relations, had made it clear how important this was. She called him to her office the next morning. Ambassador Kang was a small woman with gray hair and sharp eyes. She had spent 30 years building bridges between the 2 species, and she did not tolerate mistakes. "You understand what this means?" she said. It was not a question. Do-hyun nodded. "Yes, Ambassador. Our presence at the wedding signals that we are accepted as equals in the galactic community. More than that," she said, "the Valorians respect strength. They invited us because we proved ourselves in war. Now we must prove ourselves in peace. One wrong word, one broken custom, and we lose everything we have built." She handed him a thick folder. "These are the protocols for the ceremony. Study them. Memorize them. There can be no errors." Do-hyun took the folder and began reading that night. The Valorian wedding ceremony was complex, filled with rituals that dated back thousands of years. There were prayers to speak, gestures to make, and traditions to follow. Each one had to be perfect. But as he read deeper, he found gaps in the information. Certain rituals were marked as sacred and undisclosed to outsiders. He would be walking into the most important event of his career partially blind. 3 days later, their ship landed on Valoria Prime. Do-hyun stepped out onto the landing platform and felt the alien air fill his lungs. It was thinner than Earth air, with a strange, sweet smell. The gravity was slightly stronger, making his body feel heavy. The royal palace rose before him like a mountain of crystal and metal. It was the largest structure he had ever seen, with towers that reached into the clouds and walls that seemed to glow from within. Thousands of windows looked down at him like watching eyes. Valorian guards stood at attention as the human delegation walked inside. They were massive, their silver skin reflecting the light, their 4 arms holding ceremonial weapons. Their face markings glowed a neutral blue, showing neither welcome nor hostility. The inside of the palace was even more impressive. The halls were wide enough for ships to fly through. Statues of ancient kings lined the walls, each one larger than life, frozen in poses of battle and victory. Everything spoke of power and history. Do-hyun saw Princess Yura for the first time that evening. The delegation had been brought to a welcome ceremony in the Grand Hall. Hundreds of Valorian nobles filled the room, their markings creating a sea of shifting colors. King Taejin sat on a throne made of black metal, his face hard and proud. And beside him stood Princess Yura. She was tall and elegant, with silver skin that seemed to shine more brightly than others. Her 4 arms were decorated with golden bands, and her royal robes flowed around her like water. She was beautiful by any standard, human or Valorian. But something was wrong. Do-hyun had studied Valorian body language for years. He knew that their markings revealed their true feelings, no matter what their faces showed. And Princess Yura's markings were dim, almost gray. He had learned that gray meant grief or deep distress. She was supposed to be a happy bride. Instead, she looked like someone walking to their death. Their eyes met across the crowded room. For just a moment, Do-hyun saw something in her gaze, a plea, a desperate hope. Then her attendants guided her away, and the moment was gone. That night, Do-hyun could not sleep. He walked through the palace corridors, trying to clear his mind. The halls were quiet and empty, lit by soft, glowing panels in the walls. Then he heard voices. He followed the sound and found himself near a private chamber. The door was slightly open, and he could hear 2 people arguing inside. One voice he recognized immediately. It was Princess Yura. "I cannot do this," she said. Her voice was tight with emotion. "I will not marry him. He is a monster." A deeper voice answered. Do-hyun did not recognize it. "You have no choice, Princess. This marriage will prevent a war. Would you sacrifice millions of lives for your own comfort?" "He will kill me," Yura said, "just as he killed his other wives." "That is a rumor, nothing more." "It is the truth, and you know it." There was a long silence. Then the deep voice spoke again, and this time it was cold. "You will marry Lord Sangwoo in 3 days. If you refuse, the consequences will fall not just on you, but on your entire bloodline. Your father has made his decision. Accept it." Do-hyun heard footsteps approaching the door. He quickly moved away, pressing himself into a shadowed corner. A tall Valorian male walked past without seeing him. Do-hyun stood there in the darkness, his heart pounding. He thought about Princess Yura's gray markings, her desperate eyes, her words about being killed. This royal wedding was not a celebration. It was a death sentence, and he had no idea what to do about it. The day of the wedding arrived like a storm. The entire planet seemed to hold its breath. Ships from 100 worlds filled the skies above the palace, carrying guests who had traveled across the galaxy to witness the ceremony. Do-hyun stood with the human delegation in the grand celestial hall. The room was so large that he could not see the far walls. Thousands of Valorians filled the space, their bioluminescent markings creating waves of color that moved like living things. Great pillars rose toward a ceiling painted with stars, and ancient banners hung from every surface. He wore his formal translator uniform, a simple black suit with Earth's symbol on his chest. Around him, the Valorian nobles wore armor made of precious metals, their 4 arms decorated with jewels and weapons. He felt small and plain among them. The ceremony began with drums. The sound was so deep that Do-hyun felt it in his bones. Valorian priests walked down the central aisle, carrying burning torches and singing in the old language. The words spoke of duty and sacrifice, of bonds that could not be broken. Then, Princess Yura appeared. She walked slowly, her silver skin shining under the lights, her royal robes trailing behind her like a river of gold. Her 4 arms were folded in the traditional pose of a bride, and her face was calm and empty. But her markings were gray, almost dead. Do-hyun watched her pass, and his chest felt tight. He remembered her voice in the corridor, her fear of the man she was about to marry. He wanted to look away, but he could not. Lord Sangwoo waited at the altar. He was tall even for a Valorian, with broad shoulders and thick arms that showed years of combat. His face markings burned an aggressive red, the color of conquest and dominance. He looked at Princess Yura the way a hunter looks at prey. Do-hyun translated the opening prayers for Ambassador Kang. His voice was steady, but his mind was racing. He kept thinking about what Yura had said. He will kill me, just as he killed his other wives. During a pause in the ceremony, a young Valorian female approached him. She was dressed as a servant, but she moved with quiet purpose. Her markings glowed a soft purple, the color of secrecy. "You are the human translator," she whispered. "I am Nari, handmaiden to the princess." Do-hyun nodded carefully. "How can I help you?" Nari looked around to make sure no one was listening. "You cannot help. No one can. But you should know the truth about what is happening here." She told him about Lord Sangwoo. He was the head of a noble house that had long opposed the king. He controlled a vast army and had threatened to start a civil war if he was not given Princess Yura's hand in marriage. The king had agreed to save his empire from destruction. But Sangwoo was a monster. He had been married twice before. Both wives had died under mysterious circumstances. Everyone knew he had killed them, but no one could prove it, and no one dared to accuse him. "The princess has begged her father to stop this," Nari said. "But King Taijin believes peace is more important than his daughter's life. She will be married today, and she will be dead within a year." Do-hyun felt sick. "Is there nothing that can be done? No law that can stop this?" Nari hesitated. "There is one way, an ancient rite called the plea of sanctuary. If someone believes a bride or groom is being forced into marriage against their will, they can challenge the union and offer themselves as an alternative protector." Hope sparked in Do-hyun's chest. "Then why hasn't someone done it?" "Because the challenger must prove their worth in combat against the intended spouse. They must fight Lord Sangwoo." Nari's markings flickered with fear. "He is the deadliest warrior in the empire. He has never lost a battle. No Valorian will risk their life against him, even to save the princess." She looked at Do-hyun with sad eyes. "I tell you this only so you understand. There is no hope. The princess is lost." She walked away, disappearing into the crowd. Do-hyun stood frozen. The ceremony continued around him, but he heard none of it. His mind was filled with images of Princess Yura's gray markings, her empty face, her voice saying, "I cannot do this." He thought about what Nari had said. The plea of sanctuary, a challenge to single combat. It was suicide for anyone who tried it. Sangwoo was bigger, stronger, and more skilled than any fighter Do-hyun had ever seen. A human would have no chance. But humans had never had a chance against Valorians. Not in the first war, when their ships were smaller and their weapons weaker. Not in any of the battles that followed, and yet humanity had survived. They had fought and bled and refused to give up, and in the end, they had earned the respect of an empire. Do-hyun thought about his grandfather, who had fought for Korean independence when he was just a boy. He used to tell Do-hyun stories about standing up against impossible odds, about choosing death over dishonor. "Some things are more important than survival," he would say. "Some things you have to fight for even if you cannot win." The ceremony reached its final stage. The high priest raised his arms and called for silence. His voice echoed through the great hall. "The bonds of marriage are sacred," he said. "They cannot be broken by time or distance or death. Before these bonds are sealed, I ask if any voice rises in objection." Princess Yura's markings flickered with desperate hope. She looked out at the crowd, searching for someone, anyone, who might speak. Silence stretched through the hall. The nobles looked at each other but said nothing. Lord Sangwoo smiled. Yura's markings began to fade. The hope died in her eyes. Do-yun felt his heart pounding. His hands were shaking. He thought about his family back on Earth, about his career, about everything he would lose. He thought about the pain and the fear and the almost certain death that waited for him. And then he thought about Princess Yura, alone and afraid, about to be given to a monster who would kill her. He stepped forward. "I invoke the plea of sanctuary," he said. His voice was clear and strong, and he spoke in perfect ancient Valorian. "I offer myself as protector to Princess Yura, and I challenge Lord Sangwoo for the right to her hand." The hall exploded. Valorians shouted and screamed. Some laughed, some stared in disbelief. A human, a weak and fragile creature with only 2 arms, had just challenged the greatest warrior in the empire. King Taejin rose from his throne, his markings blazing with fury. Lord Sangwoo's smile grew wider, his eyes filling with cruel joy. He would get to kill a human in front of the entire galaxy. Ambassador Kong grabbed Do-yun's arm. "What have you done?" she whispered. Her face was white with shock. Do-yun looked at Princess Yura. Her markings were glowing bright blue, the color of gratitude and wonder. Tears ran down her silver cheeks. "Something I had to do," he said. An ancient Valorian female stepped forward. Her markings were white with age, and she moved slowly, but her voice was strong. "I am Elder Yunji, keeper of sacred laws. The human has spoken the plea correctly, in proper form and proper tongue. The right is valid. The challenge is accepted." Lord Sangwoo stepped toward Do-yun. He was so much larger that Do-yun had to look up to meet his eyes. "I will enjoy this," Sangwoo said. "I will tear you apart slowly, little human. I will make you scream for death." Do-yun did not look away. "Then I will make sure to disappoint you." The crowd roared. The challenge was set. In one day, Do-yun would fight for Princess Yura's freedom. In one day, he would probably die. But at least he would die standing up for something that mattered. They gave Do-yun a room in the warriors' quarter of the palace. It was simple and bare, with stone walls and a hard bed. A window looked out over the arena of ancestors, where he would fight Lord Sangwoo the next day. The arena was massive. It could hold 100,000 spectators on its stone benches. The fighting ground was made of black sand, stained dark by centuries of blood. Great statues of legendary warriors surrounded it, their stone eyes looking down at the place where heroes had lived and died. Do-yun sat on his bed and tried to calm his breathing. His hands would not stop shaking. Every few minutes he looked at the arena and imagined himself down there, facing a creature twice his size with 4 arms and a lifetime of combat training. "What have I done?" he thought. "What was I thinking?" But he knew what he had been thinking. He had been thinking about Princess Yura's gray markings and her empty eyes. He had been thinking about his grandfather's stories. He had been thinking that some things were worth dying for. The door opened. Ambassador Kang walked in, her face hard with anger. "Do you have any idea what you have done?" she said. "Years of diplomatic work, destroyed in a single moment. When you die tomorrow, it will be a humiliation for all of humanity." Do-yun looked at her. "And if I had done nothing? If I had watched her be given to that monster? Then at least you would be alive. At least our relationship with the Valorians would be safe." "Would it?" Do-yun stood up. "Ambassador, you taught me that the Valorians respect strength. Not just physical strength, but the strength to stand up for what is right. If I had stayed silent, if I had let an innocent woman be sacrificed for politics, what would they have thought of us? That humans are cowards? That we care only about ourselves?" Ambassador Kang was quiet for a long moment. Then she sighed. "You may have a point." but it will mean nothing if you are dead." She turned and walked out, leaving Do-yun alone with his fear. An hour later, the door opened again. This time it was Princess Yura. She moved quietly, like she was afraid of being seen. Her markings glowed a soft blue, but there was worry in her eyes. She stood near the door, her 4 arms folded against her body. "You should not have done this," she said. "Lord Sangwoo will kill you. He has killed warriors who trained their whole lives for battle. You are just a translator." Do-yun smiled slightly. "I was a soldier before I was a translator. 8 years in the Korean military. I know how to fight. Against humans, not against Valorians." "No," he admitted. "Not against Valorians." Yura stepped closer. Her markings shifted to purple, the color of determination. "Then let me help you. I know Sangwoo. I know how he fights. I can tell you his patterns, his weaknesses, his habits." She sat down across from him and began to speak. Sangwoo was a powerful fighter, but he was also arrogant. He liked to show off, to make his opponents suffer before he killed them. He used big, dramatic strikes that looked impressive, but left small openings after each attack. He was also used to fighting Valorians. 4-armed warriors who used strength and speed. He had never faced a human before, never dealt with their strange 2-armed fighting style. "There are places on the Valorian body where the nerves come close to the surface," Yura said. "If you strike them correctly, you can cause great pain or even make the limbs stop working. I will show you where they are." She reached out and took his hand. Her touch was cool and smooth. She guided his fingers to points on her arm, her shoulder, her neck. "Here," she said, "and here, and here." Do-hyun memorized each location. He asked her to repeat the information again and again until he knew it perfectly. When she was finished, Yura looked at him with those deep silver eyes. "Why did you do this?" she asked. "You do not know me. I am not your princess, not your people. Why would you die for me?" Do-hyun thought about the question. Because it was the right thing to do. Because no one else would. He paused. "Because my grandfather taught me that courage is not the absence of fear. It is being afraid and acting anyway." Yura's markings glowed gold for just a moment. Then she stood and walked to the door. "I will pray for you," she said, "to whatever gods might listen to prayers for humans." She left, and Do-hyun was alone again. That night, General Minho came to see him. The general was the commander of the Royal Guard, a massive Valorian warrior with scars covering his arms and face. His markings glowed a cold white, and he looked at Do-hyun with open contempt. "I think you are a fool," Minho said. "You will die tomorrow, and your death will mean nothing." Do-hyun looked at him calmly. "Then why are you here?" Minho was silent for a moment. Then he reached behind his back and pulled out a bundle wrapped in cloth. He set it on the bed and unwrapped it. Inside were 2 Valorian combat blades. They were shorter than human swords, curved and elegant, made of metal that seemed to glow with inner light. They were weapons of war, designed for speed and precision. "These belong to my father," Minho said. "He was a great warrior. He would have respected anyone willing to die with honor, even a human." He paused. "Use them well. Make your death mean something." He turned and walked out without another word. Do-hyun picked up the blades. They were lighter than he expected, perfectly balanced. He made a few practice cuts, feeling how they moved through the air. They were good weapons. Better than anything he had trained with before. He practiced through the night. He ran through every fighting technique he had learned in the military, adapting them for the Valorian blades. He visualized the fight with Sangwoo, imagined the big warrior's attacks, planned his responses. He practiced striking the nerve points Yura had shown him over and over until his arms burned. When the sun rose over Valoria Prime, Do-hyun had not slept. He was tired and sore and more afraid than he had ever been in his life. But he was ready. The guards came for him at midday. They walked him through the palace corridors, past crowds of Valorians who stared and whispered. Some laughed at him. Others looked at him with something that might have been respect. The arena of ancestors was full. 100,000 Valorians sat on the stone benches, their markings creating a sea of color that seemed to move like water. The noise of their voices was like thunder. Do-Yun walked onto the black sand. The sun was hot on his face. He could smell blood and dust. Across the arena, Lord Sangwoo stood waiting. Sangwoo was even larger than Do-Yun remembered. His silver skin was covered in battle scars, and his 4 arms held 4 different weapons: a sword, an axe, a spear, and a dagger. His markings burned red with bloodlust, and his smile was full of cruel joy. "Little human," Sangwoo called out, "I am going to enjoy breaking you." Do-Hyun said nothing. He raised General Minho's blades and took his stance. The horn sounded. The fight began. Lord Sangwoo attacked like a storm. He crossed the arena in 3 giant steps, his 4 arms moving in a blur of metal. His sword came down at Do-Yun's head while his axe swung at his legs. The spear thrust at his chest, and the dagger aimed for his throat. Do-Yun had never seen anything so fast. He threw himself to the side, barely avoiding the sword. The axe missed his legs by a finger's width. He blocked the spear with one blade and felt the impact rattle his bones. The dagger cut across his arm and hot blood ran down to his hand. First blood, 10 seconds into the fight. The crowd roared with laughter. Some began to leave, thinking the fight was already over. Why watch a human be slowly killed? Sangwoo smiled and pressed his attack. He was faster than Do-Hyun had expected, stronger than seemed possible. Every strike felt like being hit by a vehicle. Do-Hyun blocked and dodged and retreated across the black sand, and still the wounds came. A cut on his side, a slash across his shoulder, a deep gash on his leg that made him stumble. Blood dripped onto the arena floor. Do-Hyun could feel his strength fading. The pain was constant, a fire that spread through his body with every heartbeat. A normal person would have fallen. A normal person would have surrendered. But Do-Yun was not normal. Humans, it turned out, had secrets that even the Valorians did not know. When humans were hurt, their bodies released chemicals that blocked pain and gave them extra strength. This was called adrenaline. It allowed humans to keep fighting long after their bodies should have stopped. It allowed them to ignore wounds that would make other species fall unconscious. Do-Yun felt the adrenaline surge through him. The pain faded to a dull roar. His vision became sharp and clear. His muscles stopped shaking and became steady. He was hurt, he was bleeding, but he was still standing, and he was still thinking. Sangwoo had expected an easy kill. He had expected the human to fall in the first minute, screaming and begging. Instead, the human kept moving, kept fighting, kept refusing to die. The crowd grew quiet. The Valorians who had started to leave stopped and turned back. Something unexpected was happening. Do-Yun watched Sangwoo carefully. He remembered what Princess Yura had told him. The warrior was arrogant. He liked dramatic attacks. He left small openings after each strike. There. After the sword swing, Sangwoo's upper right arm dropped slightly for half a second. After the axe attack, his lower left arm was extended and exposed. Patterns, weaknesses, opportunities, but Do-Hyun could not use them yet. He was not fast enough to exploit such small openings. He needed to change something. He needed to make Sangwoo fight differently. He stopped retreating. Instead of dodging backward, Do-Hyun began moving sideways and forward. He got close to Sangwoo, inside the range of his longer weapons. He used movements the Valorian had never seen before, techniques from human martial arts that looked strange and unpredictable. He used a taekwondo kick to strike Sangwoo's knee. The warrior stumbled in surprise. No one had ever tried to kick him before. Valorians did not fight with their legs. He used a Hapkido throw to redirect Sangwoo's axe swing, sending the warrior off balance. He used military close combat techniques to strike at the nerve points Yura had shown him. A hit to the shoulder that made Sangwoo's upper right arm go numb for a moment. A strike to the ribs that made him gasp. The crowd was completely silent now. They leaned forward in their seats, watching something that had never happened before. A human was not just surviving against their greatest warrior. A human was fighting back. Sangwoo's markings began to shift. The red of bloodlust was mixing with orange, the color of frustration and anger. He had expected to enjoy this fight. He had expected to make the human suffer for daring to challenge him. Instead, he was struggling. He attacked more aggressively. His strikes became faster but wilder. He stopped trying to hurt Do-hyun and started trying to kill him with every blow. That was exactly what Do-hyun wanted. Wild attacks meant bigger openings. Angry fighters made mistakes. Do-hyun was bleeding from a dozen wounds, his body screaming with pain. But he felt the battle shifting. The impossible was becoming possible. 5 minutes passed. 10, 20. The crowd began to make noise again, but this time it was not laughter. It was disbelief. It was wonder. No one had ever lasted this long against Lord Sangwoo. The human was still standing, still fighting, still refusing to fall. Sangwoo's markings were now burning orange and yellow, the colors of confusion and fear. He had never felt these things in battle before. He did not know how to handle them. His attacks became even wilder, even more reckless. Do-hyun waited. He was patient. He was bleeding out, getting weaker with every moment, but he waited. One chance. He needed just one chance. Sangwoo raised his sword for a massive overhead strike. It was the kind of dramatic attack he loved, the kind that would split an opponent in half. He put all his strength into it, and he left himself completely open. Do-hyun moved. He stepped forward instead of back, getting inside the arc of the sword. His blades flashed, striking both nerve clusters on Sangwoo's right side. The warrior's right arms went limp. His sword and dagger fell from numb fingers. Sangwoo roared in shock and swung his axe with his remaining arms. Do-hyun ducked under it and struck again, hitting the nerve cluster on the left shoulder. The axe dropped. Only the spear remained, held in one weakened hand. Do-hyun did not stop. He pressed forward with everything he had left. He struck and kicked and threw, using every technique he knew. Sangwoo tried to fight back, but he had never faced an opponent like this. He could not predict the human's movements. He could not understand his fighting style. A kick to the knee brought Sangwoo down to his level. A strike to the throat made him choke. A final blow to the head sent him crashing to the ground. Do-hyun fell on top of him and put his blade to the warrior's throat. Sangwoo lay in the black sand, all 4 arms useless, a human kneeling on his chest. His markings flickered through a dozen colors before settling on white. Pure white, the color of surrender. "I yield," Sangwoo whispered. His voice was broken. "I yield." For a moment, the arena was perfectly silent. 100,000 Valorians stared in shock at what they had just witnessed. Then the noise came. It started as a low rumble and grew into a roar that shook the stone benches. Valorians were on their feet, screaming and cheering and stamping. Many of them had spent years being afraid of Lord Sangwoo. They had watched him bully and threaten and kill. Now they watched him lie in the dirt, defeated by a creature they had always thought was weak. Do-hyun tried to stand and fell. His body had given everything it had. The adrenaline was fading, and the pain was coming back, worse than before. He could feel blood running from his wounds, pooling in the sand beneath him. His vision began to darken at the edges. The last thing he saw was Princess Yura running across the arena toward him. Her markings were blazing bright gold, the color of love. Then the darkness took him. Do-hyun woke slowly, like swimming up from deep water. He was lying in a soft bed in a room filled with golden light. The walls were white, and strange machines hummed quietly around him. Patches of glowing material covered his wounds, and he could feel a gentle warmth spreading through his body. He was alive. For a long moment, he just lay there, staring at the ceiling, feeling his heart beat. He had not expected to wake up again. He had expected to die in that arena. "You are awake." He turned his head and saw Princess Yura sitting beside his bed. She looked different than before. The gray was gone from her markings, replaced by soft colors of blue and pink and gold. Her eyes were bright, and there was a small smile on her lips. "How long?" Do-hyun asked. His voice was rough. 6 days. You were badly hurt. The doctors were not sure you would survive." She paused. "But humans are stronger than we knew." She reached out and took his hand. Her touch was cool and gentle. "You saved my life," she said. "You stood up for me when no one else would. You fought a monster and won." Her markings glowed brighter. "I do not know how to thank you for that." Do-hyun smiled weakly. "You already did. When you told me how to fight him." Yura laughed. It was a soft, musical sound. "I gave you information. You are the one who used it. You are the one who refused to fall." She was quiet for a moment, then spoke again. "There is something you should know. Something about what your victory means." She explained the ancient law. By defeating Lord Sang-woo through the plea of sanctuary, Do-hyun had established himself as her rightful protector. In Valorian tradition, this was a bond as sacred as marriage. More sacred even, because it was forged through combat and sacrifice. "We are bound together now," Yura said, "in the eyes of my people. You are my husband." Do-hyun stared at her. Of all the things he had expected to hear, that was not one of them. "I did not plan for that," he said slowly. "I know." Yura's markings shifted to purple, the color of uncertainty. "If you wish to be released from the bond, I will do it. You can return to Earth and live your life. I will not hold you to a promise you did not mean to make." Do-hyun looked at her. He thought about Earth, about his family and his home and everything he had left behind. He thought about his career, his plans, his future. Then he thought about Yura, her courage, and her sadness, and her hope. The way she had helped him even when she thought he would die. The way her markings glowed gold when she looked at him. "Let me think about it," he said. She nodded and released his hand. "Take all the time you need." Over the next 2 weeks, Do-hyun recovered. The Valorian medical technology was amazing, and his wounds healed faster than they would have on Earth. He was able to walk after a few days, and soon he was strong enough to leave the medical wing. He learned what had happened while he was unconscious. His victory had sent shockwaves through the Empire. A human had defeated the greatest Valorian warrior in single combat. It was impossible. It was unbelievable. And yet, it had happened. The Valorians had always respected strength. Now they looked at humans differently. These small, strange creatures with their 2 arms and their soft skin were not weak after all. They were survivors, fighters, worthy of respect. Lord Sang-woo had been destroyed, not killed, but something worse. His defeat had humiliated his entire house. His followers abandoned him. His wealth was taken. His titles were stripped away. He was sent into exile on a distant moon, where he would live out his days in shame. The civil war he had threatened would never happen. King Taijin wanted to see Do-hyun. The king received him in the throne room, the same place where the wedding ceremony had almost taken place. Taijin sat on his black metal throne, his markings glowing a deep blue. He looked at Do-hyun with eyes that were hard to read. "I thought you were a fool," the king said. "When you spoke the plea, I thought you had thrown your life away for nothing." "Many people thought that, Your Majesty," Do-hyun said. They were wrong. I was wrong. Taejin stood and walked down from his throne. He stopped in front of Do-hyun, towering over him. You saved my daughter. You saved my empire. You showed my people what courage truly looks like. He placed his 4 hands on Do-hyun's shoulders. I would like to adopt you into my bloodline. Make you a prince of Valoria. You would be my son-in-law and title. Do-hyun felt the weight of the offer. A prince of an alien empire. It was beyond anything he could have imagined. I need time to consider, he said. Of course. That night, Ambassador Kang came to see him. She looked tired, but pleased. You did it, she said. You actually did it. Humanity's place in the galaxy is secure. We are no longer outsiders. We are equals. That was not why I did it, Do-hyun said. I know. That is what makes it even better. She smiled. Whatever you decide, know that you have done more for your species than any diplomat could have done in 100 years. Do-hyun walked through the palace gardens that evening. Valoria Prime had 3 moons, and their light cast strange shadows on the alien plants. Everything was beautiful and strange. He found Yura sitting by a fountain. She was alone, her markings glowing softly in the moonlight. You are leaving, she said. It was not a question. I have not decided yet. But you are thinking about it. She looked up at him. I would understand. This is not your world. These are not your people. You have a home waiting for you. Do-hyun sat down beside her. He looked at the 3 moons and thought about everything that had happened. He thought about the life he had left on Earth and the life that waited for him here. My grandfather used to tell me something, he said. He said that home is not just a place. It is where you choose to make your stand, where you choose to fight for the things that matter. He turned to look at Yura. Her markings were flickering through colors, uncertain and hopeful. Earth will always be part of me, he said, but I think I have found another place worth fighting for, another person worth standing beside. Yura's markings blazed gold. She took his hand, all 4 of her arms wrapping around his one. Are you sure? She whispered. I am sure. The coronation ceremony was held the following week. The grand celestial hall was filled again, but this time the mood was different. This time there was joy. King Taejin stood before his people and declared that Park Do-hyun was now Prince Doha of House Taejin. Blood of his blood, son of his heart. The name Doha meant bright courage in the old Valorian tongue. The crowd cheered. Ambassador Kang stood with the human delegation, tears in her eyes. General Minho saluted, his markings showing respect for the first time, and Princess Yura stood beside Do-hyun, her hand in his, her markings glowing the brightest gold he had ever seen. Do-hyun looked out at the sea of Valorians, at the empire that had accepted him, at the woman who loved him. He thought about his grandfather's words, and knew he had made the right choice. He had found his place to stand. He had found his home.